BJ Mill here, Palliative Care Doc. Sorry, I'm just reading some. I'm here to answer a couple questions about grief. This one that came in is the grieving process, according to Elizabeth Kubler Ross, applicable in all grieving situations? Elizabeth Kubler Ross was a psychotherapist, a Swiss psychotherapist who lived in the US, who did a lot of work in her career in the 60s, interviewing people who were facing death. And her work began these sort of what turned into the 5 stages of grief. She was very clear about this. It's gotten muddled in recent times, but these are not a stepwise this is not a stepwise progression through grief. But she did note themes that seemed to come up with most or all people she interviewed. The 5 stages she outlined were denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And that sounds like a nice, tidy sort of pathway. It rarely goes in that sort of linear fashion, and sometimes it goes and skips a step and then goes back, and it is not linear. And nor is it inherently applicable to all kinds of grief or every person. People may feel some of these stages or none of them or all of them and then some. Grief is just this sort of altered state where all sorts of feelings can come up that don't necessarily immediately relate to the thing happening in real time. It's this sort of, you can feel your mind and body 2 steps ahead or behind you. And it just, in this way, grief can feel like an altered state. So in answer to the question, strictly speaking, Elizabeth Kubler Ross's stages of grief are applicable in any kind of grief, no matter what the kind of loss is, whether it's a person or a thing or a dynamic or a role. But I wouldn't put too much stock in these stages as being an actual process to follow. More a guidepost to let you know that grief shows up in each of us in myriad ways at different times. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks for asking.